My first conscious memory was my parents took me to a double feature, which was Beat Street and
Oh
Gremlins
my God,
at
two
a,
of my favorite movies.
yeah, at a drive-in. And I loved Gremlins, but it was so iconic, the battle at the Rocks,
Oh yeah.
Rocksteady and New York City Breakers. And when I had seen that, that just got burned into my psyche.
All right, this is the inaugural Behind the Decks MPLS podcast, and it's been a little bit of a labor of love here. And so we're going to work through some intros with our very first guest, which would be nice for you to get to know a little bit more about him. Yeah, just a little bit about the show. This is the brainchild of myself, Harry Duran, and Angel MPLS House behind the camera. And he's waving now. So the idea was really to understand a bit more about the DJ culture and the house culture and the music culture here in Minneapolis. And uh, as a DJ myself since I was 16 and as a podcaster since 2014, it finally seemed like the opportunity to mix the two together. So through conversations with Angel, we figured out that we want to start here at the headquarters for MPLS House. And I want to give a shout out to them for being a great partner. Hopefully the logo is coming through on the video. And yeah, we're gonna see how it goes. Don't have the lineup yet, but we'll keep working through things, and each episode will be getting better. So thanks for sticking with us. That's Angel scratching in the background. So tonight, it's January 2026 to put a timestamp on it, but I'm very honored to have as the first guest on the show, DJ Turnstiles. The crowd's going crazy.
Beep, 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 beep.
So, what's beautiful about this forum and this way of connecting is that I get to almost discover who my guest is and what their background is at the same time the listener is too,
Right.
which gets me really, really excited. So let's talk a little bit about how you ended up here in Minneapolis and a bit of your background.
Okay.
But where did you grow up?
So I was born in the West Metro.
Okay.
So Minneapolis side. I lived in a suburb called Crystal. And my folks moved up to what I affectionately call the Booney Burbs. So there's a little town just north of Forest Lake, which is about 30 miles north of the Twin Cities, and it was a place called Chisago.
Yeah.
So I finished out the second half of middle school, so like seventh grade, I was up there, and I was there all the way up until I graduated high school. Then I came back down to the Twin Cities, but I ended up going over to the East Metro. So I'd been like over in, all over St. Paul and, various suburbs and things like that. And then just in the last couple of years, I moved back over to the West Metro, but I'm like over in the northern part of it, so Brooklyn Park area.
Yeah. So you have a lot of love from Minnesota.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, just the Twin Cities as a whole. I never looked at it as Minneapolis or St. Paul. I
Yeah.
always looked at it as like one kind of one unit.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then of course I've got love for the Booney Burbs. I got love for going out to rave parties that were in converted corn silos and all
Okay.
kinds of like incredible things.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of my whole sojourn around the Twin Cities. I'm a Minneapolis kid,
Yeah.
born and raised, but I consider myself like a child of the Twin Cities. So
And you're giving some love to New York with your Bronx cap
yeah,
too.
absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to the Boogie Down. Shout out to everybody out in Brooklyn and Strong Island. And,
Yeah.
money making Manhattan.
You got them all. Yeah.
So,
I grew up in New York.
Okay.
And definitely it's been during the late 80s,
Mm.
you talked about like B-boy and that whole culture, like to
Yeah.
be there as it was happening. And I was just a little too young to get to the clubs.
Mhm.
So, but that's kind of like that birthplace of like music and hip hop. So I'm curious for you, what's your first memory of music?
First memory of music.
Yeah.
I grew up with it. My father was a musician. Music was always a part of our household. When I first got into a tangible genre,
Yeah.
it was hip hop
Okay.
because it was so unique. And whether you were watching documentaries on PBS or Sesame Street, and they'd have like a b-boy on there, or hip hop was becoming bigger than big.
Yeah.
Run DMC and Walk This Way was like
Oh yeah.
the first like pop rap hit that everybody was just like, "Yo,"
Yeah.
like, I mean, after Sugar Hill
I remember that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but and I was a child of MTV. Literally, my birthday is the same launch date as MTV,
No
August
way.
1st, 1981. So
And so you know the first song they played on MTV, right?
yeah, yeah, it was Radio killed the video star
Yeah, Video Killed the
or
Radio
Video
Star. Yeah,
killed.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry. It's like
Um,
iconically known as the
yeah,
first ever. Yeah.
right. And it's like so I grew up in music had always been like a part of my life, and of course, being a child of the Twin Cities, the whole Purple movement with Prince and
Yeah.
Morris Day and the Time and
Yeah.
everybody, and the whole Minneapolis scene that was going on, and then. As I got older, I started to really get into specific genres based off of my exposure. Again, hip hop was always like the through line for it.
So just on that a little bit, do you remember like the first thing you saw that was hip hop? Is it just someone on TV? Did you hear something on the radio?
The my first conscious memory was my parents took me to a double feature, which was Beat Street and
Oh
Gremlins
my God,
at a
two of my
drive-in.
favorite
Yeah,
movies.
at a drive-in, and I love Gremlins, but
Yeah.
it was so iconic, the battle at the Rocks
Oh
between,
yeah.
Rocksteady and New York City Breakers, and when I had seen that, that just got burned into my psyche, and then
Same.
from that point on, it didn't matter if it was, Cap City Breakers,
Okay.
were B-boys that, were getting down right off of University Avenue,
Yeah.
and they would set up at this one, it's a bank now, or I'm sorry, it's a McDonald's now, but it used to be a bank,
Yeah.
and it was a parking lot, and they used to battle, and they
Yeah.
would, like, get down and everything. And, so everything I always wanted to just be involved somehow in hip hop. And I,
Mm,
took my stab as a B-boy when I was really little.
okay.
And then of course breaking got played out by the mid to late 80s and everyone was doing like New Jack. So like the
Yeah.
Running Man, the Roger Rap, they were doing steps.
Okay. Okay.
And that in turn kind of got me into club dancing, which
Hmm.
in turn put me on to house.
So
So
let's break those down a little bit here. It's interesting, the hip hop influence.
right.
That movie for me also
Yeah.
same effect. Like
Yep.
I think it was 84, so I was 14,
Yeah.
and so it was like I had chills in that scene when the music's coming in and they're coming together.
Right.
It's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
tell people if you want like a picture, like a perfect of what that energy was
Right.
in that time and breaking, and
Hmm.
now it's just crazy with the stuff like
Yeah.
Japan is doing. It's like
Yeah.
the international breakdancing scene is
Yeah,
nuts.
and it was all supposed to be this idea that there's no future in it, right? Because if you were a
Yeah,
b-boy, you were kind of like, you were glorified in the clubs and you were dancing for change,
yeah,
but that was the extent of it. And then they started putting, b-boys and b-girls in videos,
yeah,
and then dancers would be out with like, rappers and
yeah,
DJs, when they would go on
yeah.
tour and they would have like breaking. But then pretty soon, once they started plucking that out, they kind of started like de-hip hopping hip hop and only
Mm,
focusing on rap.
yeah,
And then that's kind of where everything became fragmented. And being a dancer, you always knew that like the whole experience, the vibe, the milieu that we were getting was like the mystique of going to a party
yeah.
and everyone's like, yo, like person's standing a certain way, they're dressed a certain way, yo, I bet they're a dancer. And then you would go out and you would hit the floor, and then all of a sudden this person would be right in on your heels and they would, get down and either you'd vibe or you'd battle.
Yeah.
But then afterwards you were like networking with people.
So let me ask you a question about the b-boy culture,
Hmm.
which is come to mean a lot nowadays.
Yeah.
What would you say in your definition b-boy is?
Well, there's all this controversy about like what the real
Yeah.
definition as like as far as like the literal definition. I go by, the cool Herc
Okay.
definition was, break boy.
Okay.
And but they weren't dancing to the break of the records, he said.
Mm,
He was saying that you were breaking, which meant like to go off.
yeah.
Like, you'd say like, "Oh man, this dude was breaking on me on the train last week." It didn't mean he was dancing. It meant he was crazy. He was
Sure.
like he was yelling at you or
Yeah.
whatever. So that's what that meant as like that vernacular. And then over time, they just applied it to the dancers that were going out to Herc's parties and saying, "Oh yeah, these b-boys,
Yeah.
b-boys and b-girls." Later on, it kind of became it became reinvented,
Okay.
especially post 80s,
Yeah.
because everyone was calling it break dancing,
Mhm.
which is actually not inaccurate. That's what you're doing, the act of break dancing or breaking.
Mhm.
But when it came down to the definition of like what you were, people were like, I'm not a break dancer, I'm a b-boy,
Mm.
because it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's like everything from the way you dress. You might be cross trained in other elements of hip hop. So you
Mhm.
might be an MC as well as a graffiti writer
Yeah.
or a DJ as well as a dancer. Then there was that point where everyone just kind of started like claiming b-boy, but they didn't dance at all. And I'm like, no, if you can't say you're a b-boy
Yeah.
if you don't dance,
So
you
let's
know?
get
So
into the dancing because obviously there's a through line that's running through a lot of
right.
this conversation. Were you dancing as a child? Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that? Oh
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if I asked your folks or what you were like as a child, what would they say?
They would say that, yeah, like, anytime that there was another dance, like, I had to learn it, and I had
Okay.
to do it.
Okay.
You know, it was like, of course, everybody's kinda main jump off point would be, like, Michael Jackson,
Sure.
and I was also real big into Prince because I grew up in that.
Yeah.
My dad was connected to a lot of the people in
Okay.
the purple scene.
Okay.
So, growing up through that, you would just like, you would try to do Prince dance moves, you try to do Michael
Mm,
Jackson's dance
mm,
moves. And then, of course, going back and looking at old footage of like James Brown, or even further, watching like old tap dancers like hoofers
okay.
and soft shoers and stuff. So, like, aside from Gregory Hines, you had
Yeah.
Sammy Davis Jr.,
Yeah.
you had the Nicholas brothers, the Will Maston Trio, stuff
So
like
was
that.
this all like just watching TV and
Watching
VHS?
Oh god, yeah. I mean, because my parents my babysitter was cable.
Okay. Yeah.
So not only was I watching anything that was related to music, but I was also watching reruns of old, TV shows, which kinda gave me almost like a cultural, like, reference point to
Yeah.
things that weren't even, like, relevant anymore. You watch a show from the '60s, and then you hear an MC make like, a reference to a '60s TV show, and you're like, "Oh, I get it. I get what he's saying," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was I
Shout out to the Jeffersons.
yeah, exactly, because it was always like a thing of like, hip hop was always about like being in the know.
Yeah.
The more you knew, the better off you were. So I knew that I just had to know about absolutely everything and experience everything, not
So
just like intellectualize it, but like go out and drink it in. Otherwise, it's just head knowledge that was gonna be forgotten at a certain point.
so that it's interesting. So how that curiosity that you have,
Mhm.
because I also hear a lot of that. Like, I was curious about this. I needed to know about this. I want to know this. Is that like another trait that you said just defines who you are?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because it definitely like transferred over not only into dancing, but my life as a martial artist.
Okay.
I've been a martial artist for as long as I've been a dancer.
Yeah.
And then when I got into DJing, especially with DJing, because it was never enough just to get, the hottest record and learn how to, blend that into another record.
Yeah.
It was like I would read the inserts and I would be, especially my father taught me how to read samples. So, like, I would listen to, like, De La Soul, and I'd love a
Oh,
certain track from
really?
De La,
Okay.
and then he would be like, "Oh, yeah, that's, that's, Steely Dan, that's
Yeah.
Peg." And I'm like, "You got that record?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he'd
Yeah.
play it for me,
That's
and I'm like,
amazing.
"Yo, this
Yeah.
shit's fire." So then I'd have to, and he's like, "Contains a sample of," and then you would see
Mm,
that, you would see, "Contains a sample of the
yeah.
Love Boat theme," or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and then I have to go out and dig for all the samples,
Yeah.
because that it just made me feel
Interesting.
like a Pokemon collector, like I had to catch them all, you know?
Yeah. Nowadays, that you can just pull out an app and
Yeah, or you Shazam it. That's why a lot
yeah.
of DJs don't like when I do like overlays and stuff because they're trying to Shazam certain tracks, but I blend my shit so good. They're like,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
end up texting me later, "Yo, bro, what was that track? What was that track? What was
Not
that sample that you used right there?" Because it
that's
was like a
funny.
4-bar loop, but it was hot,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So when did you start paying more attention to the DJ culture and that when that curiosity hit that nerve?
um, so I first got put onto it when I first got put on the house. I was really, really little. I was still like in my youth.
So when you say put onto house, define what that meant for you.
We were driving through Chicago because my
Uh,
dad was on tour,
okay.
and we were stuck in gridlock traffic on the highway,
Okay.
and we were thumbing through the radio, and I never listened to Chicago radio except for like when we passed through there,
Hmm.
and I caught the Hot Mix Five from
Okay.
WBMX,
Okay.
and as soon as I heard it, at first I thought it was hip hop because
Yeah.
I heard, and at that time I thought hip hop was also like electro,
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
would, so I'm like, I'm hearing like electro beats,
Yeah.
and I'm going like, this is a hip hop station, but it didn't sound like hip hop. It
Yeah.
sounded different.
Yeah.
So I ended up making a tape. Like I
Okay.
grabbed my boombox and got a tape queued up and everything. So I only got like the second half of that show,
Yeah.
and then we went to Indiana. On the way back, it was a week later to the day, and we were stuck in traffic again,
No
but we were
way.
coming around the opposite way. So we were like stuck. Like you could look down to the left and see the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
So we're stuck in traffic on the freeway, and I was able to get a clean beginning to end of the Hot Mix Five
That's fun.
because it takes you forever to get out of Chicago.
Sure.
Anybody's ever driven through Chicago knows. But like you're trying to go through on a Saturday night and you're stuck. So I got this like full recording, And then there was a track that really stuck out to me, and it
Okay.
was No Way Back by Adonis.
Oh, yeah.
So I
Wow.
come back to the Twin Cities, a couple weeks later, and my dad is at a record store with me, and I hear No Way Back
Mm,
playing. So I come running up to the front of the counter, and I'm like, "What is this record? Who is this by?" And the guy was like, I don't know. This is the guy who's hanging records over there. This is like his stuff."
okay.
And he's like, "Oh, this is house music." And I'm like, "House music?" And he's like, "Oh, you like house music?" I'm like, "What is house music?" He's like, "It's this." And he's like, "Do you want this record?" I'm like, "Yes, please." And he goes, "Here, I got an idea." So he goes and he grabs the House Sounds of Chicago volumes 1 and
Oh,
2,
wow.
that were the UK exports that Pete Tong put together.
Okay.
You know, the ones that literally were like, this is a blueprint of like what house is, right?
Got it.
So he gave me those 2 records, and he gave me the single of No Way Back,
Wow.
and then I think he gave me like 2 other like white label records. And from that point, now I'm trying to like comprehend club music,
Okay. Yeah.
because my like I was like I was used to hip hop,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but this the beat signatures are different.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a boom bap, it's a boom 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 boom, and there's a hi-hat to it.
And then
And
freestyle too at the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's more of a it's more synonymous with disco than it
Yes.
is with
Yeah.
hip hop directly. So then as the years went on, I was still going to like, local things like, teen nights and lock-ins and things like that, where dancing was kind of your currency.
Okay.
And every once in a while, they would be throwing down house records,
Mm,
because that was back in that time where it was like you played like on a rotation. So you'd play like 2 hip hop tracks,
yeah.
and then you'd play like an R&B, like a Janet Jackson track, then
Yeah.
you'd play like a slow song, and you'd rotate all the time. So, but I would hear house records getting played.
Okay.
And then I started getting into the clubs at 14. I started sneaking into clubs, and I had a friend who got me his brother. I looked a lot like his brother, his older
Okay.
brother. So his brother gave me his Iowa State driver's license,
Yeah.
and these were the laminated ones from
Yeah.
back in the day. So you looked at it, you're like, "Yeah, good,"
Good enough.
right? So I was going to like graffitis and glam slam
Okay.
and the Rogue, the Gallery, like
These are all local?
yeah, all First Avenue,
Okay.
Gators, Tropics, like
Wow.
all these clubs. And then also you would dance at that club,
Yeah.
and then people would be flyering that night, and they would say, "Hey, man, there's a loft party.
Yeah.
Come out. It's
Yeah.
over in the warehouse district." Back when the warehouse district was the warehouse district.
Actual warehouses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not expensive high rise
Yeah.
lofts and
Yeah.
shit, but like that started opening doors for me,
Okay.
and dance was always connected to it, and also the connection to music. You got to meet
Mm,
people that you normally never get to hang out with,
yeah.
and you get to connect on something that everybody resonates with.
Yeah.
So that in turn got me into continuing to dig for records.
Yeah.
And then eventually I started taking my stab at like mixing.
Okay.
And, I had a crappy belt driven
Yeah.
set
The
of
same.
Newmarks, and this shitty battle mixer. And then when everything went digital,
Yeah.
I actually really appreciated the fact that when stuff went digital, it didn't stay in that kind of the first generation of CDJs
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
like jogged, it would make like the click sound like you were fast forwarding or rewinding a CD player.
Yeah. Yeah.
They actually started using everything in like wave, you know? That whole aspect really put me on to not just music, but also the technology and how the technology enables
Yeah.
non-musicians and musicians alike to be able to create things,
Yeah.
because my favorite part about it was not even to try to like, you know, get notoriety. It was like, I want to make a mixtape
Yeah.
that I love to listen to.
Yeah.
And then that somehow would resonate with somebody else, and they
Yeah.
go, "Yo, who did this shit?" I'm like, and they're like, "You kidding me?" And I'm like, "Mm-mm." And they're like, "Yo, well, keep it up. Like, you make me one."
Okay.
And then
So was it more like bedroom DJs to start, and then when did you start making the move to seeing if you could start playing out?
that came a lot later actually, because out of necessity, I had to sell all my gear,
Okay.
like my old vinyl gear.
Yeah.
Not my records, of course, but like my tables, my old sound system, all that stuff. I had to sell it to make rent. And then I hadn't DJ'd for all the way up until about like 2015,
Wow. Okay.
maybe 2016.
Okay.
But I was like, well, now everything has been downsized to the point where, you just get like a little, controller that had
Sure. Sure.
record box.
Sure.
And I was like, cool, I'm back in the bedroom again.
Okay.
But I started getting momentum with that. And
Yeah.
then people were like, hey man, you got record box, a couple hours worth of tracks on a thumb drive, come out, we got CDJs, come out and play.
Okay.
And I started doing that. And then that's what got me really back into
Yeah.
like not only DJing, but then like it was starting to become a professional
Okay.
pursuit at that point. So
So talk to me about the environment here in Minneapolis, Twin Cities. You know, how's that been inspirational and influence affected you? You know, because you can get to see other styles and how people play, and I'm curious how that's had an impact or what your perspective on it is.
well, I think growing up as a dancer, we were always appreciative of how like multifaceted everything and everybody was,
Mm,
right? There was never like a like one signature style.
sure,
You
sure,
know, it's like some people would say, oh, there's the Chicago style, there's the New York style, there's the
sure.
Philly style. Minneapolis was kind of like, hey, we're so starved that we'll take
Yeah,
anything that we can figure out. So you might have house DJs that have kind of a hip hop sensibility in the way that they mix.
yeah,
So rather than playing like an entire track through and doing like
yeah.
all these like crazy blends and stuff, they might just like get just the meat of the record and
Hmm.
hit you with like almost like breaks, except they're not breaks,
Yeah,
house they're house breaks,
yeah,
you know, and they would like throw beats like that. And then there's other people that want to take you on a journey and
yeah, yeah.
things were thematic. And that was what really inspired me. I loved
Okay.
the idea of like curating a set and, you know, really living up to the idea of not just being a DJ, but being a selector, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and saying like, what do I want to say tonight to the
I
people?
love that.
You know, and it's kind of a thesis. You want
Yeah,
to make sure that you are able to express everything that you want to express, get people like, you know, off the wall
yeah.
that were just, you know, sitting there not
Sure,
intending on
sure. Yeah.
dancing, and then really make the people that are enthusiastic like raise their energy. And then at that point, I kind of feel like a DJ is almost like a conductor. You know, when you watch a
Yeah.
conductor when they start like they
Yeah.
want to hit a certain section to like start to bring intensity, and you watch them, and
Yeah, yeah,
you know, and it's like, and so you're sitting here and you're trying to like channel in, and
yeah.
you're figuring out ways to be able to move and manipulate the crowd, and you know, maybe even put them onto records that they maybe never like thought they would have liked.
Well, I like that you say that because I don't know that a lot of people talk about it, but it is like I remember the first time I saw some DJ, and I saw that was watching the crowd, and I was watching the DJ. I'm like, this person is controlling that
Right.
crowd of people. I was like,
Right.
this is crazy, and he's
Yeah.
changing it, and the hands go up, and I'm
Right.
like, wow. I was
Right.
like, that's amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and those were the funnest parts.
yeah,
The funnest parties that I ever went to were with the DJs that would like they'd figure out some kind of way to get you in the palm of their hand,
yeah.
and they want to bring you down like low,
You get
and they
people
start
squatting on the
they
dance
start
floor.
you
Yeah,
filters, and all of a
yeah,
sudden they just get really low and they get real quiet, and then all of a sudden they start bringing you back up,
yeah.
and it's like, and it was
Oh yeah.
like a church experience, you know?
Totally. Yeah, you ever do a Body and Soul,
Yeah.
New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it was kind of that experience. So, yeah, I just love that journey of how everything's taken you from like beginnings and you putting the pieces together, inspired by the dancing, by the movie, and all these little things. You almost think about these moments as like your crazy timeline, like this happened.
Right.
Like you heard the Adonis track, right?
Right.
You got taken to a drive-in theater and to see Beach Street, right?
Exactly.
And all these little pieces came through. So it's been incredible to hear how you've like put that all together. So as we get close to the wrapping up this episode, when you see people that are just getting started, it's a completely different world now
Yeah.
than it was back then. But if you had any like advice for someone who's just getting started, and you know everyone's journey is different,
Mhm.
but what comes to mind in terms of like someone saying, "I should do this. Can I do this? Do I want to do this?" And they just happen to catch you in the hallway. Like, what are you saying?
I typically tell people like first and most important rule is like love music.
Mm,
If you don't love music, if you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, that sincerity or lack of sincerity is going to show
yeah,
to the audience. You
yeah,
know, you're playing like these banger tracks that you don't really believe in,
yeah.
and I think of it almost like being an actor. Like you have to kind of assume the role of the character, right? So if you're playing this record, it means you fucking mean it.
Mm,
You are co-signing on this record. So when I play shit for people and I'm like, "Yo, this is a great record. You should have this, or
yeah,
you should cop this, or you
yeah.
should like,
Shazam this.
yeah, you should Shazam it, right?" And the other thing too is that we have a responsibility as DJs. Like what we're trying to do is we're trying to feature these artists.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've gone through record stores where it's like a mausoleum, you know, to quote DJ Shadow, it's like all these people's like broken dreams and failed promises, and you know, the record never got off the ground,
Mm,
or they died horribly in a plane crash.
yeah,
And then that record though, it's like that breakbeat changed
yeah.
the summer of '89 in
Sure,
the
sure.
UK, or
Yeah.
it became this most sampled, you know, record of all time, or any myriad of things. And these people are being given like life again. So
Mm,
I feel like what we're doing is we have a responsibility being selectors and DJs, is we have to love music, and we have to honor the artists who create this because without it, we wouldn't have anything.
Yeah. Well, so well said, and couldn't think of a better bow
Mhm.
for this episode. And I just want to thank you for kind of being open about your journey,
Yeah.
and it's really inspiring because it's like I love the fact that there's going to be so many different conversations
Oh yeah.
in this show. So if people want to connect with you and learn more, where's the best place for them to?
Turnstyle DJ on Instagram is my handle. I also have a professional one that I'm still curating. So if you follow me on my personal one for Turnstyle DJ, I'll be able to like funnel you over to that one once that is
And
like
just spell that just to be sure.
yeah. So it'll be TURNSTYLE
Yeah.
DJ.
Okay.
I believe it's an underscore DJ, and then
For those of you listening.
yes, and then yeah, you can also find me on Facebook as well. All you have to do is just look up DJ Turnstyle, and you'll see me. I got the Doctor Strange multi arms in the lotus position with my turntables and shit. So
Well, Turnstile, actually, this has been an amazing experience. This is part one of the experience here because now we're going to be playing a back-to-back set, which is going to be a lot of fun. And so this is a new concept we're trying out for the show, and looking forward to getting some feedback from you on it. But Turnstile, thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
All right.